So we'll conclude this máamar to the best of our ability. Holding. We're at the second last paragraph, right? Doros. In answer to our question that we asked yesterday, I'm just thinking about it, you could say two things. The question was that he said that Mesidas Nefesh B'Poel far surpasses the greatest Mesidas Nefesh and Yichudim and meditations and readiness that the great tzaddikim experience daily, engender daily during Krishma, and that's because this is Mesidas Nefesh B'Poel. And hence the greatness of Rabbi Elazar bar Dodaya. And our question was that he concluded by saying, and therefore his greatness was that he achieved in that moment what he would have achieved even with 100 years of avodah. But he said it's not equal, it's greater. So one of the tirutzim is Poshet, he didn't mean to limit it to that. Plus, yes, it's the unspoken, obvious plus, it's even higher. But there's also, which we had learned, the shaila, that the fact is that he missed, there's all kinds of answers to this. How can we say that he has the mile of Torah mitzvahs? He just didn't do them. Tshuva is a higher level, but he's still missing the detailed hamshachas of that each mitzvah needs to do to affect the world. On the personal level, each mitzvah fixes the world, fixes the goof. I mean, it does things. So he's pure, lofty and pure, but how can we say that he has the mile of Torah mitzvahs? One of the answers is Gilgul. That was a Gilgul of a previous neshama, and I forgot who right now. So therefore he elevated and brought that to bear as well. So that there's a chidush, there's a chidush in that he achieves in his Mesidas Nefesh B'Poel, the actual avodah of Torah mitzvahs, even though he didn't do it. That's a big chidush. It doesn't say here in the máamar how, that's explained elsewhere, said through a Gilgul, because he's continuing and elevating a previous lifetime. At any rate, so that could be the teretz, why it's equated to avodah adarab. There's a chidush in that, because he didn't actually do the avodah. Then he said in his daled, okay, yeah. Then he said in his daled that nonetheless, Rabbi Elazar bar Dodai's tshuva only reaches his source, his mother flame, his depth of the ocean. But then there are tzaddikim that were greater, much higher than Elazar bar Dodaya, and even though their avodah was Torah mitzvahs oiros bekelim, that was still higher than his ultimate, because of their higher neshamas. Now, concluding that adiva, Rabbi Akiva she'omar, likewise Rabbi Akiva that we spoke about Yom Kippur, right?
How do you know there's h'tשכ in Kippur? It's W.
It says so in Medrash in a few sources. Yalkut Shemoyni for one, and other sources. In fact, there is in some nuschois, it's not widespread, but there is a nusach that they add in the Vinim Alkeinu and they make a specific reference to Rabbi Akiva. Answer us in schus of Rabbi Akiva, who was the composer of the original Vinim Alkeinu, as we shared. So Rabbi Akiva she'omar kol yomai, he said this when he was dying and his flesh, his skin was being raked with iron combs. And he was in a state of simcha, of ecstasy, and they said even now, and he was saying the Shema. Even his Talmidim said to him, Rebbe, even now, and he said, Kol Yomai, I was always pained al posik zev with this posik, which says b'chol nafshecha, the one should give up one's life, which means afitul neitel es nishmoscha, even if they take your life. And I was always pained mosa yovai liyodi v'akim. Keeps on falling out, huh? When will it come to my hands to fulfill this? And now I am. Shadig bazehu, next page, final page. Akimeno. When will I fulfill it? Again, extolling the virtue of Mesiras Nefesh B'Poyol. Fulfill it. In brackets, Shadeza Yekaimis and Mesiras Nefesh B'Kri Shema. Shois B'Chol Yomav. He always had that readiness when he said the Shema. But he always longed for the moment when I would actualize it. And that's just going back to our general point. That's the Maila of the Mesiras Nefesh of Rabbi Elazar Bar Dudai. How do you get into this? The whole discussion of our Maimer, just someone tell me, is about the difference between pre-Matan Torah and post-Matan Torah. And then how do we get into this? So I'll just direct your attention just to the beginning of Beis Gimel. It's the same parallel he was saying, that the Avodah, to use the simplest terms possible, the Avodah pre-Matan Torah was limited and post-Matan Torah is boundless. Al derech zeh, post-Matan Torah is the same model. The limited, relatively speaking, Avodah, als relative, is the Avodah of the Tzadikim, Torah mitzvahs, Ave and Yira, and so on. And the boundless Avodah is Mesiras Nefesh B'Poyol, so it's the same model that we're talking about pre-Matan Torah, post-Matan Torah. He went on to say in his Gimel that this is the same post-Matan Torah. Potential, readiness, true readiness, or actual Mesiras Nefesh. Now concludes the Maimon now, which is the whole theme of pre-Matan Torah, post-Matan Torah. It's very Kabbalistic and geographical, Kabbalistically. Let's read it. In the general distinction, the Torah mitzvahs, l'avodah, the kiddush Hashem hu. So summarizing this point.
Did you finish the last paragraph?
What?
Did I zone out?
We didn't finish the last words? Yeah, okay.
I thought you stopped at that came in before the brackets.
Yeah, all right. So so he was now. This is the mile of the actual Mesiras Nefesh over his readiness that he experienced in Krishma throughout all his life. What's the difference between the two? I mean, the emphasis, this whole harichas to explain this. I mean, as a child will tell you. We have the whole hasbara and mashalim, and marshal of the ocean and marshal of the flame, to explain the difference between B'Peil Mamish giving up your life, being burnt at the stake and tortured as Rabbi Akiva was. Anybody want to offer an answer? This is the chiluk, as if like we have to need an explanation. And b'shalim, it's not more than patently obvious. What do you think the answer is?
This is trying to teach us the difference.
Uh-huh.
I thought this is trying to teach us the difference between pre-Matan Torah and post-Matan Torah. Which is a good question.
That too. It's saying it's a similar model, but now focusing on this model, there's a whole arichas in this model. Do we need to have a whole arichas and explanation, a lengthy one, and illustrations to point out the virtue of actually giving up your life, or davening and saying Krishma? What do you think the answer is? Did the question occur to you? Okay, the teretz is good. I'm glad it didn't. The teretz is that the tzaddiks, v'chol nafshech and Krishma. This is not just if it comes, I'll be ready or would like to be ready. He's experiencing Mesiras Nefesh there, internally. Mamash. I told you the Baal Shem Tov after davening, he said it's Chazdei Hashem Tchias HaMeisim Mamash, that he was alive. The tzaddikim aren't saying the words b'chol nafshecha. It means that even if they're experiencing it. I came this is the dik now, that when will I fulfill that which I experience in my nefesh, the pale mamish experience in my nefesh during Krishma. It's not unlike, perhaps, as we've encountered before, that l'mayla ein koyach choser poyel. You know what that means? That potential does not lack the actual. For us, there is. You get potential for something and it can never happen, and that's the end of the story. It's worth nothing if you don't actualize it, the fact that you could. But for Hashem, the fact that He can is already it. It's done. For the simple reason that nothing can stop the potential from actualizing. But more than that, it's because it's real at the level of potential. That's the Shitta Beishamai. Koyach, it's an even higher level than Poel. It's even higher because with Poel it's still limited to the physical things that happen that last the 10 minutes or the 10 hours and it's over. But in Koyach it's a state of being constantly. There's a milated misenavish b'Koyach. In other words, a person can rise to the occasion. A simple Yidden did that, Lepel Mamish. They rose to the occasion. At that moment, I'm a Jew and suffered and died. But not b'Koyach. This constantly state, be in that state every day, be'emes, twice a day, declaring it and expressing it. That in a way is a higher avodah. That in a way is higher. And likewise, for the tzaddik, there's no separation between the koyach and the poel. If he's holding by it ben nafshay, then it's virtually, that's what it is. Just like by the Eibishter. And koyach has the poel. And again, Beishama extol that virtue over the poel mamish. Where it's limited to it starts and it ends. And koyach, it's a state of being. That's why the Maimon has to bring the Mishal. No, but despite all of that, there's a mile of the actual pale mamish. That's the depth of the ocean. It's the mother flame, etc. Which tzorichin a little bit. Why? Why is it greater? For this one moment. Why is that one moment greater than a sustained, constant Mesiras Nefesh matziv? Not just meeting the moment. You have to go the other way. So it's not lo pashut kol kach. It's not so simple. Which is why the
like Avraham Avinu.
Yeah.
Hikri, it was natural. Your Shvat. I mean,
not natural. Not natural.
Not naturally. But Hikri was
a similar idea. The Chassidus extols the virtue of Avraham of Rabbi Akiva. That's what Chaim's referring to. It's a higher avodah. It's not the avodah you're speaking about over here. That avodah is he was hiding Mesiras Nefesh. He was hiding the avodah. He's giving over his life completely bottled. If it meant wealth, it's wealth. If it means dying. If it means suffering, it's all the same. Rabbi Akiva longed for the actual Mesiras Nefesh, and for Avraham, the mantis avodah it's even higher than that. It's complete bittul to the master, and whatever it takes. And if it's whatever, and it's not Mesiras Nefesh, it's higher in a way. It's like we just learned this. It's not even Mesiras Nefesh. There is an awareness. Okay, I'm giving up my life. There's the self. I'm giving my life, and there's a level of it. It's not it's complete focus on the goal, and that's it. Whatever it is, it's painful. It's pleasurable. It's all the same. It's the highest darga. The highest darga is not even aware that he's Moishe Nefesh. The language doesn't even have that language. Likewise, Ava, that's a chiddush of the Rebbe. The highest darga is an Ava of love. Is not even aware that I love. Similar thing. Complete transcendent of self and separation. That's a higher madrega. He doesn't speak of this here. Here he speaks about Mesiras Nefesh, b'koyach and b'poel. And he's bringing out that the mile of the B'Peil Mamish, that touches the depth of the ocean, the mother flame. And again, after explanation right now, it's a little bit, that's one time it's done. We always did this, it's greater.
We learned something because you said that it was a derech skula, that you got to a higher level.
The derech skula is Torah mitzvahs, that you put on tefillin and you mamshich with the black box, with the kaddish. that's not Mesiras Nefesh. That's the avodah.
That's Poel Mamash.
Not Mesiras Nefesh, not Mesiras Nefesh Poel Mamash.
But that's Maisa.
But that's not when he's talking about the die. He's not talking about that.
What's the comparison in between, if you have to make a comparison between the Lazar and Dordaya, Poel Mamash, and the Yuchud Elyonim, and Matan Torah pre and post?
He's saying, Adarab, he's saying that post Matan Torah, the Maisa B'Poel, the Tefillin, that's like pre Matan Torah compared to the Mesiras Nefesh B'Poel of what I'm lost about the die.
Again, sorry.
He's saying, to be clear, that post Matan Torah, we also have the pre and post. What's that? Pre is the mitzvahs, the avodah of Torah, the mitzvahs of the tzaddikim, putting on tefillin and Shabbos, doing everything else. And post Matan Torah is Mesiras Nefesh B'Poel. That's it's holding. So post Matan Torah, the pre-model is Torah mitzvahs. What's the post Matan Torah within post Matan Torah? Is Mesiras Nefesh B'Poel. It's Mesiras Nefesh, not Torah mitzvahs. First he said pre and post is that the others reached the level that they could to the Yichudim Chachma, but not Atzmis Chachma. We b'derech segula, because God just commanded it and said, do this, you'll get it. When we put on tefillin, b'mamshich Atzmis Chachma. Fine, limited, not limited. Then post Matan Torah says there's also, relatively speaking, within that not limited, a limited and an unlimited. And what's that? The avodah of the tzaddikim, Torah mitzvahs, including the b'chol nafshecha that they're ready to do, which is part of mitzvah. It's like Shema every day. Be ready to give up your life. And then there's a Mesiras Nefesh B'Poel of Rabbi Lazar about the diet.
Is that from saying? I think from saying in the pre-post model.
The pre.
In the
Which one?
Post Matan Torah.
The first one.
Yeah.
Post Matan Torah, meaning mitzvahs are a school to bring to connect to whatever to connect to.
The Atzmis of Chachma. Yeah.
The parallel of that of mitzvahs in the previous model. In the second model, the parallel of mitzvahs is Mesiras Nefesh.
But Poel, which is what you said now.
So
Right?
so if in the first model it's a school that it connects.
It doesn't, no. There's no segula here. No, fair is not. No. What's segula? Segula means that the act itself is inherently meaningless. It's a black box and it's got black ink on a hide of a behemoth. This is mamshech atzmis hachachma. Yeah, because God said do that. Atzmis hachachma is going to be invested there. Here it's his avodah. It's his avodah that he did, and it's a Maisa B'Poel of the highest level, and not b'derech segula.
So what's the answer?
Huh?
So what's the answer?
To what? What's the question?
You had a question. The question is, so what is it that makes the Poel Mamash higher? If the koyach of a tzaddik is just like the Poel, and their avodah is every day with.
That's okay. So that's what Amaim is telling us, that at the end of the day, when it's actualized B'Poel Mamash, that's the ultimate.
Why?
He doesn't say, but you're right. He doesn't spell it out, but it's all tied in with the kavanas did b'tachtonim. So when the guf is given up B'Poel Mamash, that's not just a nafshedik Mesiras Nefesh, but a Mesiras Nefesh that embraces the guf, and that's the ultimate. Okay, maybe we could say there's some aspect of derech segula, but think about it. Now, it's why? What's the guf? Why would that be significant? But we understand. But quite simply, the person suffers. He gives up gashmis. Okay, we'll leave that open. Maybe there's room to say that it's also derech segula. Okay, let's conclude. Yeah? Did we finish this paragraph yet? No.
Yes.
What's that?
Yes.
No, we did?
Yes. I think so.
Sure. No, we didn't. The difference between Rabbi Akiva, his potential Mesiras Nefesh, as it were. It's not potential as in, if I'll do that when it comes to it. I'll jump off that bridge when I get to it. he's actually holding by that nafshizdik within. But the difference between that and the actual Mesiras Nefesh, she'al derech hachiluk shebein hamiktzah shenifal itztad l'gabe makeh, is similar to what we said about both the flame and the ocean, the side, the edges, and the actual source. And he concludes, and we're saying that's relative. That's relative, Rabbi, his source. And likewise, Rabbi Elazar Badadaya, his source. So which means, as he said before, that there's tzaddikim whose avodah, the limited avodah is higher than Rabbi Elazar Badadaya's even. Because the neshamas were much higher. Okay, concluding, concluding now to conclude now the difference now, kabbalistically, geographically, what levels are we connecting to between the avodah of Torah mitzvahs and kiddush Hashem. Now again, Torah mitzvahs is b'derech segula, but still, beyond that is the avodah of kiddush Hashem. Pi Dua is in light of that which is known, okay? They don't give us any footnotes except for the Eitz Chaim. And that is Shavod Atzilus, Abba v'Ima Chachman Bina Atzilus. This is geographical. We're just going to learn it. And tell them they are the source of all the lights, the revelations that emanate from it. That's what Chachman Bina. That's the core of Atzilus, the pnimius of Atzilus, the highest levels. Pashenkin Zun. That's the 6 midas in Malchus. That's Atzilus. Zo or Nukva. Zo Zer Anpin, small faces, that's the 6 midas, and Nun Nukva, feminine, that's Malchus. That's already the revelations dispersed or manifesting in details and in highly defined revelations. Therefore, so through Kiddush Hashem, which we said, Shal Yoda Boim La. So there the Jew reaches the source. So what happens there? Mailim, he elevates Maim Lukvin, the feminine waters, which is the Jew, the Neshama, Malchus, and reaches the source, Ava, Chachman Bina. Mashenki, Advidas, it's Tzaddikim, Torah Mitzvahs, whereas the Avodah of Torah Mitzvahs are the Tzaddikim, Bekavon, the Mesiras Nefesh, Bekrishma, and their readiness, their koyach, etc., for Mesiras Nefesh. So that is like Bedugmas HaMiktzah Shenifal Itztad, and that's not the depth of the ocean, the depth, the center of the flame, but the edges. So what does a Jew reach? Holding by that level, Maili Man, the feminine waters, which is the Jew, which is Malchus, the Neshama, the recipient, that's us, are elevated to where? Only to Zon, to Zo and Malchus, even though Man is Malchus, it's a lower level of Malchus, but at any rate, we only reach Zo. So, in a word, actual Mesiras Nefesh reaches the source of Atzilus, the Pnimis of Atzilus, Ava, and Torah Mitzvahs, and readiness of Mesiras Nefesh reaches only to the Midas of Atzilus. That's the geographical address of the difference of the Avodah. Both are drawing on Atzilus, on the source, as it were, where the question is the Pnimis, the center of the flame, the center of the ocean, or its externalities. Okay? Again, this is the Alter Rebbe's Maimah, basically, and it's not Bekitzin and Nekudas.
Seems like a not.
What?
Yeah, it seems like a not standard way for the Rebbe.
No, it's not. This is not the Rebbe's language and style. It's virtually. We have to see the Maimah as it was printed. To see if there even are differences, there may be. I just, by the way, got now. Levi sent me. You got to hear the whole thing. Shlomo Zachi, he was there apparently. I didn't get to the end of it, describing the whole scene of this Maimah, Tavshin Chav Dalet. Okay, so the review of the Maimah basically, I mean, just to distill it, is the difference between pre-Matan Torah and post-Matan Torah. Limited avodah, limited on the person's level. Post-Matan Torah is God's gift to us, and then post-Matan Torah it's similar to standard Torah mitzvahs, real readiness to give up your life, as opposed to actually doing it. That's what the Maimah say. The nuance and the details we learned as best as we could, and everybody should review to the best of their ability.